It's not very often I run into an indie game that I was originally excited for, only to find the full release doesn't live up to what it seemed to be aiming for previously. Goblin is a very minimal game that plays like Luck Be a Landlord as a slightly weird tower defense game, where you wade through waves of enemies while trying to destroy their barracks in the background. The longer that you survive for, the tougher it gets, with enemies that bring shields, steals, and heals into the mix as you build up your deck of symbols and units. What made the full release less interesting compared to the demo is that there simply isn't much here. There are no special game modes, no meaningful modifiers, just the same repetitive gameplay loop stretched across endless mode, with only your build and choices to break up the monotony. You start with a base commander whose powers aren't particularly engaging, and gradually unlock more options. The fungi commander, for example, can duplicate units while also cutting their attack in half each turn, which works well with sacrifice builds that grow stronger with nearby units that are being used as fodder. Outside of that one feature that changes based on which commander you've chosen, the only thing to look forward to is the scaling difficulty. Unfortunately, this isn't very gripping, as it just makes the enemies tankier by inflating their shields and stats, which only really matters if you're chasing the Steam achievements. And it's not like the game itself is terrible, it's just a problem that it leans so far into minimalism and RNG into the late game of endless mode that there isn't enough gameplay for visual variety to hook you and pull you in. Outside of some trial and error experimentation with mixing features and creatures, the experience runs out of steam quickly and starts to feel stale before it ever has a chance to be good. And with the fact that nothing has changed since release with no extra content, I can't help but walk away from it. The gameplay loop will always be the same. Each and every turn you will select a new feature to add to your deck based on your current composition, though you do have the option to destroy things, skip, and also reroll. For example, you might go for a mage build with gates, or you could use a unit that offers a choice on kill to summon something new. Over time, you work towards building a formidable setup, merging units with elements to unlock their full potential. A weak golem, for example, can evolve into an arena-wide AoE unit with freeze or burn damage, which is especially useful for clearing out harder to reach enemies in the back, like with the healers that are being protected by their frontline tanks and shields. Each and every time you manage to break through and destroy the enemy barracks, the game will scale up by adding another barracks and more units. If too many units are stacked up on the left side of the screen in the backup, you will start to take damage to your life, of which you only have 5 points. I have to say that this setup isn't all that engaging unless you're playing on the highest difficulty, and even then it lacks the extra hook needed to keep things interesting without it feeling like the game is trying to bore you. Far be it from me to say you can't enjoy a game like this. If you're into the incremental style games like Luck Be a Landlord, but without the incremental depth, and instead built around heavy RNG driven mechanics that challenge you to survive higher stages and difficulties, then honestly Goblin might just scratch that itch. The problem here is the content, as a single run barely lasts 30 minutes and the only thing that's pushing you forward is unlocking a different commander and possibly choosing a higher difficulty. The problem with this is that no matter who you choose, you end up playing through the exact same mode in the exact same way with a very slight variation. And this is why I cannot recommend Goblin unless you are starved for an underwhelming RNG gambling game that has very little substance.